Hello and good evening and welcome to our Year 7 Induction Live question and answer session. If we can just start with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, may we become more aware of your presence in our lives. May we discover that you walk with us each day of our lives, accompanying us in the darkness as well as in light, in sadness as well as in joy. May your Spirit lead us to trust and come to know that you keep your word and are always faithful and loving. As members of this special community of St. Albans, we place ourselves and our future into your hands. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. If I can invite our head teacher, Mr. Baker, up to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. So, I'm Mr. Baker, and I'm head teacher of the school and the sixth form here at St. Albans. And I'm going to start with some excellent news. Since you applied for your places back in the autumn term, we've been inspected by Ofsted in January, and hopefully you know that we got good in every category in the school and in the sixth form. So to me, and for you, that ensures 7 years of amazing education with us. I would urge you to read past the summary in the first page and all those goods, which is great. But they saw, when they came here, all the things that we are going to promise to you tonight. They saw a community of love, where students are happy and safe, supported and cared for inside a very strong Catholic ethos. And that is very important to us. In fact, as educators, as me as a parent, that's the most important thing. And that journey of support really starts this evening. And you're going to meet some important people who are going to help you on that journey. So the first person I'm going to introduce you is my assistant head teacher, Mr. Horne, who's head of Pastoral Care and Safeguarding. Before I say goodbye though, I would just like to wish you every blessing for you in the last weeks of your primary school. Wish you a very happy and safe summer, and we really look forward to seeing you in September. Over to Mr. Horne.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is quite exciting because we've never really done anything like this before, but we really felt it was important that with the difficulties we've had for a number of weeks now, that we really wanted to engage with all of the new families that are coming to St. Albans and give you the opportunity to hear from us and hopefully ask us some questions. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the session is going to run. As you can see, I have a panel with me this evening, and we will each be talking to you very briefly about a few of the aspects of the school that we have responsibility for. So I have Mrs. Arthur, who is one of our student support leads, Miss Bright, who is our head of Year 7, Mrs. Boosey, head of inclusion, and Mrs. Pickard, who is our SENCO. And so each of us will talk just for a brief moment or two, just to give you some key information about the school. I know you've all been going on to the virtual school, and we're really pleased by the response we've had on that. We've had over 750 visits to the site, and that seems to be ever increasing. And so we're really pleased and excited with how well that seems to have gone down with our families. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of work gone into the background because this is all very new to us. And so we're learning as we go along, and hopefully you'll find this evening's meeting informative and useful for you in terms of the further induction for your child. So my role in the school, as Mr. Baker said, is to look at behaviour, to look at safeguarding and the pastoral care within the school. And so I've got a fairly meaty job that keeps me entertained and keeps me busy. But I'd like to talk about some key things that are really important, and I'm sure that you have some thoughts and questions about. Now, the session itself is going to last for an entire hour, hopefully, if we've got plenty of questions. And what I want to say to you in this initial part is that We will try and answer all of the questions that we can, but please don't take it personally if we don't answer your specific question. It may be that we just don't physically have the time to get to all of the questions that we have this evening, but we will do our very best to answer as many of the questions as we can. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you about is the structure of the school day. Now, our school day runs from 8:50 a.m. until 3:15 p.m. And so that may be slightly different to what your children have experienced at primary school, but they'll soon get used to the new format. Now, with many of the children who travel into school, what we expect is that children are with us and in the school grounds by 8:40 a.m. because that gives the children the opportunity to make sure they're here in good time and they can start the day in a prompt way. Now, the structure of our day is on a 4-period layout, and so each lesson lasts for 75 minutes. So this is how the day looks. So registration starts from 8:50 a.m. until 9:10. Then we go straight into lesson 1, which is from 9:10 until 10:25. Then all of the students have a 20-minute break. Then we have 2 lessons. So lesson 2 is 10:45 until 12. And then lesson 3 is at 12:05 until 1:20. And so our lunch break is actually quite late. It might be something slightly different to what your children have experienced so far. Our lunch is relatively short, it's 40 minutes, but we are looking at, and we have been this year investigating how we can maybe make that a little bit longer. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown and the school closures, we were unable to continue with that trial, but we were looking at expanding our lunchtime to an hour, and that is something that during the next academic year we will continue to think about and look at. So certainly it's something that is on our minds, and we will listen to what the children think and feel about that and how we can improve things going forward. After lunch we only have one more lesson, and that is our final lesson of the day from 2 until 3:15 p.m. and that concludes our school day. Now, if your children are interested in getting involved in school clubs, all of our clubs run in the main for an hour after school from 3:30 until 4:30 p.m. Now, if, for example, you're involved in things like sports fixtures, they often will go on beyond 4:30. Often clubs will go on and children will have to travel to different schools around the locality, and that means that sometimes it can go on much later into the evening. But obviously we will communicate that with you in due course. But mainly our school clubs run in that hour period after school. So it's really important that the children get into a pattern, and we recognise the fact that all of our children have been away from school for so long. One of the key things that we will need to do when they return in September is to get them back into that routine. And that will take time, and that's something that we don't want to rush. We want to make sure that we do a really good job of reintroducing all of our students, particularly our Year 7s, but to be honest with you, all of our students will need to have that care and attention to get them back into school. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is behaviour. Now, St Albans has always had a reputation for having excellent behaviour, and that continues. And as Mr Baker mentioned in his opening speech, that when Ofsted came, they were really impressed and pleased with the good behaviour that they saw around the school. We have very high expectations because what we believe is that good behaviour is the foundation of good learning. And when your child comes to this school, they are here to learn and to develop their potential. And so if we have good behaviour in lessons and we have good behaviour around the school, that is really, really important to us so that your child can achieve and progress. But it's not just in school as well. We want your child to behave themselves and be an ambassador for the school. So it's something that we talk about here at St Albans is what we call door-to-door pride. What does that mean? What it means is that as soon as your child puts their uniform on in the morning, to the moment they get to school, to when they get home in the evening, they are an ambassador for our school. And we expect that they will behave just like they will do here in school in the wider community. And that is really important, that they have that pride in their uniform and they wear it and they are a good ambassador for the school. We run a very straightforward consequence system here at St Albans, and there are 4 levels to that. Now, I'm not going to go into masses of detail on this because I'm sure this evening there's going to be a whole host of information that's going to be sent your way. But it's key that you understand the basic concept of our behaviour system. So there is a C1, which we give a warning to. So if a child doesn't behave as they should do and they maybe get off task, we will give them a warning. A C2 will result in a brief detention on the very same day for 25 minutes. Now, depending on which lesson that C2 happens in, it may take place at lunchtime or it may take place after school. A C3 is when a student needs to be removed to another lesson, into another room, so that the teacher can continue teaching their lesson. That will result in a 1 hour departmental detention. A C4, which is our most serious offence, is when a student is removed from the lesson, and that results in a 1 hour after school detention with the senior leadership team on a Friday. That gives us a very clear structure and a consistency for the students to understand and know what the expectations are in the school. Now, beyond that, there are various things that we can put into place, but I won't go into those in much detail this evening because we want to really ensure that this is a positive evening. But I know as parents, you want to know what happens if something happens at school. So that's important that you understand that and that you know there are structures in place. But we're also really keen to reward good behaviour. It's very important to us at St Albans that we recognise the students who come to school every day, who work hard and contribute to our wider school community in a positive way. So how do we do that? Well, it's about ensuring that we have really positive relationships, not only with the students, but also with families at home. We want to make sure that when good things happen in school, we let you know so that you're aware and that you too can praise your child when they come home. So we'll email, we send letters, we send praise postcards. Sometimes it's a phone call home. Those small things make a big difference in terms of our communication with you at home. But we also celebrate in other ways, such as celebration assemblies, reward lunches, and something that we've actually introduced recently is what we call Hot Chocolate Fridays. And so we invite some of our students down who've had a particularly good week to come and have a hot chocolate and actually have a really nice end to the week. So we're working on different things that encourage our students to behave well, to try hard and work to the best of their ability. And that's really what we're striving for all of our students. Now, alongside our behaviour is something called class charts. Now, you'll find out more about this in September, but we introduced this 2 years ago and it's been a really important part of our behaviour tracking. Class charts essentially is a piece of software which allows our teachers to develop seating plans. But not only that, it also helps us manage the recording of our behaviour. So when students do things that are really positive, we will give house points. If there are things that maybe are negative, we can give what we call behaviour points. And you as parents and students are able to set up your own accounts, which we will give you codes for, and they will be sent out in the autumn for you to set up your account with class charts. This is completely free and it's very easy to do, and it will enable you to see what's going on at school. It's another level of communication that allows us to show you what's happening. Now, hopefully, there'll be lots of positive things, and I'm sure there will be. On average, 90% of our interactions at school are positive. Now, across almost 1,000 students, that's pretty impressive. And we pride ourselves on the positivity that we have at this school. So it's really, really important that we have that engagement with you. And actually, for you to be able to see what's going on at school is also, I know, is really important to you as well. So once we send our letters out with the class charts codes, please set up your accounts. The last thing I'd like to talk about is safeguarding. Probably the most important part of my job is the safeguarding aspect of the school. I am one of 4 trained designated safeguarding teachers at St Albans. So as well as myself, Mrs Arthur is one of our safeguarding leads, Mrs Lawrence and Mrs Land. And between us, we lead the safeguarding team. However, we have a very strong safeguarding culture within the school, and it is every single member of staff's responsibility to safeguard the children while they are here at St Albans. We take that very, very seriously, and we will do our utmost to ensure your child is safe and happy here at school. We work really strongly with a variety of outside agencies such as social care, the police, counselling services and mental health services as well, to ensure that there is care and support for all of our students. And we know through the difficult times that we've had over the last few months that will even be more so the case come September. So if you are worried or concerned or you have any questions, please do contact us. We are in school and we are available to speak to you now, and we would really welcome any contact from you if you are worried about any aspects of your child before they come up to St Albans. So please do get in contact, and our contact details will be available at the end of this session. I'd now like to hand over to Miss Bright, our head of Year 7, who's going to chat to you about a few of the parts of her role.
Hi, so as Mr Horne said, I'm Miss Bright and I'm head of year. So what this really entails is working with the people on the panel here, as well as your form tutors and heads of department, to make sure that you feel supported within the school and that you are progressing academically as well as socially and emotionally as well. Now, you may be aware that we have a house system here at St Albans, so there's 6 houses, and each form group from every year forms those houses, right up to 6th form as well. And there are also house captains that help to organise charitable events throughout the year, mainly to celebrate your saint's feast day. So there's lots of opportunity to work within your houses as well. Now, you start the day with registration, and this means you get to see your form tutor every single day. And the form tutor is a really key role for your child's development when we come up to school in September. They're a vital link between us and home, and so it's really important that if you have any queries or any information that you want to pass on to the school, that you contact the form tutor. The only other instance where you wouldn't do this maybe is if you had a subject-specific query, but they can definitely signpost you in the right direction. And hopefully you've had a chance to go onto our virtual school, where you will see our welcome message from the different form tutors. Now, our form tutors are eager to get to know your child, and so in the post in the next few weeks you'll be receiving some form time kind of activities, so we can start to know a little bit more about you coming up in September. When you come to registration, then you will be going either to assembly or into your form rooms, and they will be doing a number of different activities with you, giving you updates about what's going on in the school at the moment, but also doing some fun games and activities. And this will also involve working with our Year 10 support students, who will be helping you to settle in to school in September. And once a week we'll come together for an assembly also. Now, when you come up to St Albans, you will need to make sure that you are ready and that you've got your uniform all set up. And our uniform provider is COES, and there's information on both the virtual school and our school website as well. And some key things that I'd like to just mention is to make sure that in every single piece of your uniform that it's got your name written in it, and that maybe your bag also is personalised, because as you can imagine, there's going to be 168 of you joining in September, so we need to be able to identify your equipment and uniform if it gets lost. A key question that we always get asked about is footwear. So on our school website, there is clear guidance on the acceptable shoes and those that aren't acceptable. And if you have any queries, obviously you can get in contact with the school, but I would really recommend that you go onto the school website and have a little look before you go shopping for your shoes in September. So I think I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Alban.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mrs. Arthur. I'm the Student Support Lead for Years 7 and 8. I'm also one of the school safeguarding leads. My role is to look after students' pastoral needs, in particular their emotional well-being and their mental health. I work alongside Miss Bright, the SEN team, and all of the form tutors. And I think we work very well together to make sure that we come together to support your children as much as we can. Moving from primary to secondary school is a big step, and it's usual to feel a bit worried or uncertain, but we'll do our best to help you in any way that we can. I have an office near to the school reception. Any member of staff can point you in the right direction to find me, and students can find me if necessary at break times or at lunch times. We also have a school nurse, and the school nurse will be holding weekly drop-in sessions from September, and we have a school counsellor as well who visits twice a week, so there's plenty of opportunities for support. If your child comes home from school with a worry or with a concern, I would really encourage you to help them think about how they might deal with it. So perhaps if it's a worry about homework, you could encourage them to talk to their class teacher. Or if it's a worry about friendships, you could encourage them to talk to, their form tutor. Something that I really encourage students to do, and they'll hear me saying this quite a lot, is to make a plan. I say to students quite often if they've got a worry doesn't solve anything, but if you've got a plan of action, you can begin to decide how you're going to overcome your worry or your problem. I can support your child with that. Any of the other pastoral staff can do that. But in the first instance, if you can get used to speaking to your child about how they might move forward and who they might ask for help, then that's a really positive thing. It goes without saying, of course, that if the concern that your child has or you have is urgent or is a safeguarding concern, then just get in touch with school straight away with me or any of the other safeguarding staff by email or by phone. The other thing it's really useful to know about is if there are any situations at home that might affect your child in school. So if there have been changes to the family, perhaps there's been a bereavement, please you can let me know or you can let a form tutor know. We can then offer support and guidance at school if that's necessary, and we can also let your child's teachers know that they might be a little bit out of sorts or that they might need an extra eye kept on them. You can phone the office and ask to speak to me, or you can email me and I'll get back in contact with you. Another plea from me is please keep us up to date with any changes in emails, in addresses, in phone numbers. There's nothing more frustrating than if a child is unwell or if there's something that we really need to discuss and we phone home or we send an email and we realise that that's not the right information anymore. The thing I want to finish by saying is that we all understand that the Year 6s have had a really tricky time. They've missed out on a lot of school, they've missed out on celebrations, exciting end of primary activities, and they've had a really different type of secondary induction, not how we would usually want to do it. We've had to try and make the best of a very difficult situation. This might make joining secondary school feel like an even bigger step for your child than usual. We are aware of this and we're making some plans to support your children as they ease their way back into school and also into the next exciting stage of their education. And we'll be here as a team to support your child all the way with that process. I'm going to pass over now to Mrs. Boosey.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mrs. Boosey and I head up the inclusion team here at St Albans. The role of the inclusion team is to ensure that all learners can access the curriculum and fulfil their potential. And for some people, there are some barriers often that might just get in the way. There are three main barriers that potentially can cause a few problems in school. And these are what the inclusion team are there to try and help you with and to support. Okay, the first one, alongside of me, works Mrs. Pickard, who's going to speak to you in a moment. And we look after all students who are recorded as having some kind of special educational need. Now that can be anything. It could be a sensory issue like visual or hearing. It could be physical or mobility. There could be just some diagnosed difficulties, all sorts of things that will present a barrier to you. Okay, sometimes people have medical issues that might not necessarily be something that is impacting on learning, but their access to their learning might need special resources or equipment, or we just might need to be aware of some things. So that's all the sort of thing that we deal with. St Albans also has a number of students for whom English is not their first language, or indeed often not the language that's spoken at home. And this is important that we are able to support you with that. So we have a designated EAL coordinator, and she would be teaching English directly, but also helping with cultural awareness and supporting around the school in quite a complex curriculum sometimes when you're moving from primary. So as you move into these subject areas, you'll find that the vocabulary and terminology can be quite tricky, and you might not have come across it before. So we want to make sure that even if your English isn't your first language, you're still going to be able to reach your potential in examinations by making sure that you can do that. And another area is, for some families, often you might not live with your natural parents for whatever reason. And if you're under the care of the local authority as corporate parent, then I would be working quite closely with you and the virtual school to ensure that you also can fulfil your potential. When any student joins St Albans, and it doesn't really matter if you're in year 7 or you come in year 9 or 10 in the middle of the year, we like you to do a couple of assessments for us. They're based on literacy and numeracy. And the reason for that is because one thing we can do is we can look for your strengths as well as your weaknesses. If we can find a gap somewhere, and it might be for something very simple, we want to try and plug that gap straight away. We want to give you the help, and if it's a reading problem, we'll get your reading up to as good as it can be. But often it can show up actually that you're an amazing reader and incredibly good at understanding things, or an amazing mathematician. And I need to let your teachers know that, because we want you to be challenged when you're at St Albans. We don't want you to just think that you've got to go along with it. We want to push you as hard as you can. So we work also with a lot of professional people. So people like speech and language, and people, physiotherapists, all those professionals. And if you've been having support in your primary school already, I will have spoken to your primary school, and that support we will endeavour to keep as it is, as you expect it to. The inclusion team also consists of a number of experienced and qualified teaching assistants, and they will be in classes to support your learning. We're also very lucky in having a learning base, which is a smaller area where we can work with groups of children or individuals doing one-to-one work. So I have already been able to speak to a lot of families, and I'd like to speak to some more of you. So if you really would like to speak to me personally about an issue, or Ms Pickard, you can contact either one of us on the details that you'll find on the end of this presentation. So I'm going to hand over to Ms Pickard.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Mrs Pickard, and I'm the Special Educational Needs Coordinator and also the lead for Pupil Premium at the school. Mrs Boosey has already given you lots of information about how we can support students with special educational needs, so I'm going to explain a bit about how we can work with and support young people and their families through our Pupil Premium offer. We've already been talking with the primary schools about students that currently have free school meals, or have done in the last 6 years, or are part of a service family, or are children in care. And if you're already being supported by your primary school due to any of these reasons, then we will try to continue that support at St Albans. So, for example, if a student is entitled to free school meals, then there will still be a daily amount added to their cashless catering account, so that they can buy food in our school canteen or other food outlet. We also add an amount each day for students to buy breakfast items in the canteen before school starts. If you think that your family might qualify for free school meals, then we can also offer advice and guidance on how to apply for this. At St Albans, we provide lots of opportunities for Pupil Premium students to get additional support with their learning if they need it. This might be through booster groups or providing additional books and resources. We also want to make sure that Pupil Premium students can access any curricular and extracurricular activities that they want to do, such as school trips and visits, individual music lessons, homework club, careers events and activities days. If you have any questions about how to access resources and opportunities for Pupil Premium families, then please look at the PP link on our school website, or feel free to contact me on the email address provided at the end of the session.
Okay, well, that's everybody from our panel who's given you their key information, and we're kind of hoping that we've got some really interesting questions from the live chat. So we've got Mr. Corliss, who's our technical wizard at the side there, who's been looking at the questions as they've come in, and we're hoping that we can do our best to answer those for you.
Okay, so we'll start with the first question. It's a good question, actually. It's really about logistics and practicalities, but it's talking about when the Year 7 start the first day, how will they be able to access meals because they won't have accessed or been able to scan the finger or thumbprint before? How will we manage that going forward?
Very good question. Okay, so we will ensure that there is a really swift process of getting those logistical parts set up as quickly as possible. But students will be provided with a meal on their first few days. So that's really important, that the children don't need to worry and panic about any of that. So that's something that we will take care of, but it will be obviously one of our key priorities to make sure that we get those systems like the cashless catering set up as quickly as we can, and parent mail, so that you have that communication link with us immediately. But don't worry about food on the first few days. We will make sure that your children are looked after.
We've got another question about class charts this time.
Yep.
Is it limited to a number of parents who can set up accounts? Just thinking from a blended family perspective, or can we set up multiple accounts?
Yes, you can, absolutely. You can set up multiple accounts. You can basically use the same code and you can set up multiple accounts. When the information comes out to you in September, we're hoping we may be able to get this out to you a little bit before, but it's all links in with our school start dates and the system that we have. But we will be getting this information out to you as soon as we can in September, and what it will allow you to do is to set up multiple accounts, and we will give you really clear instructions on how to do that. It's quite straightforward, but there are always a few little glitches in the system when people are new to something, so we'll make sure that we make it really clear and obvious to you how to get that set up.
Now we've got a question actually about equipment, and it's a question asking about calculators, model of calculators that we would advise our new Year 7s to purchase. Mr. Baker's kindly provided us with some. Probably the best one to suggest is a Casio scientific calculator. I'm not sure what it retails at, but
should we show
if we
it?
pass it over to our... We've got two, but the Casio one would be the better one.
I'll model these for a moment. So is this the one, isn't it?
Yes.
So from a scientific point of view, because I teach science, we do recommend the scientific calculators. I think they cost about £8 to £10. They don't have to be the branded ones, but they tend to stand the test of time. So
would Mr. Baker, is this like the Rolls Royce of calculators? This one?
Or the Bentley, yes.
The Bentley, and this one is the Robin Reliant?
Please put your name on your calculator,
yes.
please.
No, they're both fine.
Okay.
We've also got a question about kind of support available to children that are new to Ipswich and new to the school.
Okay.
So new to the area.
Did you want to do that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pupils who are new to the area, if you give me a call or drop me an email just to let me know, then I can certainly look out for your child and answer any questions that they have. And we'll do my best in that process.
I think what's important is children who are particularly new to the area is potentially getting them buddied up with somebody who is going to be able to guide them around school as well, and just familiarise them with the area, and certainly give them that chance just to kind of establish those friendships. I was talking just before we started this evening's event. When I was at primary school, I lived in Wales. I started secondary school in Felixstowe. So, I can completely empathise with literally moving over the summer holidays and going to a brand new school and literally not knowing anyone. So, establishing friendships really quickly is important. And so I think choosing children who can come in and support your child and give them that kind of reassurance and kind of friendship is actually important in those early days. But equally, us as staff as well are there to help in any way that we can, you know, to support your child, but also you as a family, particularly if you are new to the area.
We do have children, a lot of children who are the only child coming from their particular primary school, so they won't necessarily be new to the area, but they'll be the only child from their school. So there will be plenty of opportunities for making new friends, and it's not just 3 or 4 schools who feed into St Albans. We have a real variety.
Okay, another question here. Where do children leave the bag when they go for lunch? I mean, obviously at primary school they normally leave it in the classroom, but at St Albans, where would they leave their bag?
One of you two want to do this one?
I think they'll be shown that on their first day, but there are designated spaces where they can leave them. They will get an opportunity as well to have a locker, and that's usually on the first day when they bring their padlock in, and then they can get a locker. So there are a variety of places, and also talking to your form tutor, that's one of the questions that form tutors will be able to help you with, because some form tutors might have their room or be sitting in their room at lunchtime. So
I think with the lockers, unfortunately, we aren't in the privileged position to offer every single student a locker, but what we do is we prioritise our Year 7 students so that they can get themselves a locker. They are very prized possessions, I have to say, but we do try to ensure that they get a locker, and so that they have that security that they can leave their bag and their stuff somewhere that is safe and secure.
If you want to buy a little padlock to use on lockers, it's best if you get a combination padlock. Please don't get a padlock with a key, because keys are lost very, very quickly.
We've got a question about padlocks, funny enough. It
Oh,
actually
really?
asks, yeah, it's a follow-on from that. It says, what padlocks are required for lockers? Well, obviously you've answered that first bit about a combination lock being preferable. But then what size padlock do they need? A small one, maybe?
Just a small one. So something that you can get from Wilko's or even from Poundland, something like that. So we're talking, I'm trying to see how, about that big.
We can
not particularly, so there's my water bottle. About that big. So not, you don't want a great big thick chunky one. We don't want one that people use to lock their motorbike up with, that kind of thing. Just one that's going to keep your locker secure, but isn't going to require a big effort to try and get into it.
We can put links to suggested ones on the virtual school.
That's probably more helpful than
We'll do some Amazon links.
than this.
We've got another question about, it's actually sports this time.
Okay.
It talks about, is there a school football and basketball team for Year 7?
Yes, is the answer to that. So our school fixtures football is run from September through to just after when the clocks change, because all of our fixtures take place after school. So they'll run September through to probably end of October. Then we have a break, and then fixtures for football return then when the clocks change again. So again, sort of maybe late February, early March, and through to sort of late April. And then the basketball season is sort of sandwiched in between. So the basketball season kind of happens when we have our mid-season break. So yeah, definitely those two clubs will run, boys and girls.
We've got a question, or a couple of questions actually linked to do with transport and getting to school, to from school. First question we've got talks about how did a child from Felixstowe go about finding out about the school bus that runs? And the other question that's linked to that is, for transport to school, do we contact Ipswich buses or the council for monthly termly bus passes?
Okay. Right, so the Felixstowe bus, there are a number of different buses that run out of Felixstowe. I believe the 978 is one, and the 75
Yeah, 75, yeah.
Are two of the buses that I'm aware of. I'm not entirely sure of exactly where they pick up from. I think they pick up near on Hamilton Road, near to the main kind of bus drop-off point. near to is it the Elizabeth Hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that is one of the pickup areas, but I'm not entirely sure other areas where they pick up from within Felixstowe. But if you look out for the 75 and the 978, you should be able to get kind of the routes on those if you kind of get onto the internet. And the other question about bus passes.
Yeah, how they go about it, obviously, do they contact
Okay.
Switch Buses or the council?
I think the local authority would be the first port of call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would get in contact with Suffolk County Council, and they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you.
Part of the transition pack that we're going to be sending home to you is all about mapping and planning for how you're actually going to get to school, and there's some links on the bottom there that will probably be useful for you as well.
We've got a question about, a good one here, about EpiPens. If a child needs to have an EpiPen kit, do they carry it in their bag or hand the kit in?
Both. Both, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they have an EpiPen, we need an up-to-date, in-date EpiPen that the school office have, and they'll also need an EpiPen that they can use themselves as well. And children who carry EpiPens, all staff are made aware of children who have those kind of allergies, but do get in contact with school to talk that through.
We've got a question now about form groups. Is a children's form group also their teaching group?
In some cases, yes, but they're also mixed in different subjects as well. So, for instance, in your technology lessons, there are rotations, and so you are mixed with other students from different form groups. Same in maths and French as well. So it's a bit of both, really. Most of the time in your form group, but in other lessons with different members of your year group as well.
We've just had an update with regards to the buses, actually, some helpful information. It's the 978 bus from Felixstowe, run by First Buses, who also do the bus pass as well as set the bus pass. So thank you for that. Is rugby a keen sport at St Albans, Mr Horne?
Well, I did let loose that I am actually Welsh, so as far as I'm concerned, yes. Yes, it is a sport that we do in curriculum time. We have struggled to run teams just because of lack of interest. Unfortunately, we live in a world where football does dominate everything. So, yes, I'm a very passionate rugby supporter and participant myself. Well, used to be. But certainly, if your child is keen on rugby, it's, and again, if there is a desire within the year group and students to want to push rugby and they want to do it as a club, then absolutely we will run that.
Thank you. Are students allowed to wear a medical alert bracelet?
If it's a medical alert bracelet, then we would allow them to use it, absolutely. But we would need to know, obviously, again, that's another thing that we need to know Mrs. Arthur needs to be aware of.
Yeah. And we've got another question to do with tutor groups, actually, sort of a well-being perspective. If my child's been placed in a tutor group on their own and their friends have been placed in groups of 2 or more, why would this happen?
The placing of pupils in tutor groups is, as you can imagine, is quite a big, quite a complicated job. We are guided largely by information that comes from primary school, the advice about how to, the best way to place students, and also just the logistics of pupils coming up from other schools as well. What we're asking is that at the moment, all pupils have been allocated a form group. We understand that some people may have some anxieties about where they've been placed, but we ask that all students, give their form groups a good go, and hopefully they will all settle in. And if that's not the case, then as we're approaching half term in October, then we can start to think about any changes. But if students will give their form a chance, then I think they'll find that they meet lots of new and interesting people Did you want to add anything, Miss Bright?
I was just going to say, a lot of the work that we're going to be doing in September is getting to know your activities amongst the form as well as the form tutors as well. And as Mrs. Arthur mentioned before, we've got students come from lots of different schools. So there's a real mixed bag going on within our form groups. So rest assured that we are aware that some people are on their own, and we're going to be working really hard to make sure that they're building strong friendships, especially within those first few days and weeks in September.
Can I just add one thing? I think it's also really important to note, and we've discussed this quite at some length really during this period of lockdown, that we recognise that all students are going to be in potentially a quite difficult place, having been out of school for a significant period of time, unable to go through the normal process of finishing the school year in the normal way and so on, I think has created a lot of uncertainty. And so we are really mindful that particularly the first 2 weeks, if not the first month of school, is going to be absolutely crucial to settle those children back into school. And I think probably the year 7s more so than any other year group for obvious reasons. And so, we are really keen to ensure that we put together a lengthy and supportive programme to ensure that your child feels comfortable, feels happy, feels integrated into the school. Because until we get them to that point, we know that the children aren't going to be in the best place to learn, and they're not going to be in the best place to enjoy being at school. So I think that first 2 weeks, that first month possibly, is going to be absolutely vital to the success of the rest of the year. So we need to get that right. And so we want to reassure you that we are only too aware of the anxieties that everybody is going through at the moment. And so we will work with you, and I think the communication that we have with you between school and home is really, really important.
We've had a couple of questions in about mobile phones.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, are they allowed in school? And secondly, do they have to give the phones away? I think they mean hand them in.
Okay. Right. So mobile phones, we all have them, we all love them. Maybe we all love them a little bit too much. But we are realistic, and we know that as parents, you probably want your child to have a phone with them for safety reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think we would all agree that it's nice to know that your child is contactable. Our rule in school is that once the children enter the school grounds, they are supposed to switch their phones off and put them in their bags and have them away. Now, in reality, most children probably put them on silent and put them in their blazers or in their bag out of the way. As long as that's the case, that's absolutely fine. Now, there will be certain circumstances in the school day where teachers may ask students to use their phones for learning purposes. So rather than getting a whole load of computers out or laptops out, it might be something they can use. They might use their phone to photograph their work. They may use their phone as a stopwatch. They may use their phone as a calculator, although others are available. So there are a variety of reasons why teachers may ask students to use their phones, but it's at the discretion of the teacher. So unless the member of staff asks the children to get their phone out, they should not be out while they're at school. At 3:15, then we obviously accept that you may want to be in contact with your child as they're leaving school. That's absolutely fine. So when that bell goes at 3:15, even if they're on the school grounds, they can get their phones out. So that's the simple rule. During the school day, from 8:40 till 3:15, unless a teacher says otherwise, they are out of the way. We do not see them. That is our rule. If children get their phones out, we will confiscate them in the first instance, and they will be taken down to the front office, and the child can collect the phone at the end of the day. If it's a more persistent issue, it may be that we end up contacting you for you to come and collect the phone. But I'll be honest with you, it's pretty rare, and I think most children feel that the rule that we have at school is quite reasonable.
The other thing to add is that if you wish to contact your child at school for any reason, please don't contact them on their mobile phone. Please just go through the normal process of phoning the school office, and then we will get in contact with your child for you. And sort of on the flip side of that, if your child is at school and is feeling unwell or needs to come home for some reason, they need to come to the school office and we will contact you. What we don't want is for pupils to contact home on their mobiles, and then we have children who are collected from school perhaps, and we don't know about that. So I think, you know, you need to presume when your child is in school that they are not contactable on their phone, and just phone school through the normal channels. And if you can encourage your child to do the same as well, please.
We've got a question about being concerned about the youngest in the school. What is your advice in terms of coming in at year 7 and being the little people of the big school? What sort of advice would be given? Just to reassure them that they'll be looked after, that, you know, there'll be lots of year 7s together, there'll be lots of guidance from the former tutors and Miss Bright as well, and our pastoral support team will be there. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Do you want me to?
Peer mentors. Yeah, do you want
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, so obviously when you come into school, you spend a few days coming and getting to grips with the environment as well, so you feel confident walking around the school and knowing where the canteen is, knowing where to go if you need any help as well. We also have a really strong pastoral team. Obviously Mrs. Arthur is available, so if there is any issues then we can pick that up, as well as your form tutors too. We have year 10 peer supporters that will come into your form groups every week, and they will do a number of different activities with you, and they are, you know, they've been there and done that, so they look out for you and make sure that you're settling in well as well. And obviously you can speak to any teacher if you're concerned of everything, but this is a really friendly school, and that's something that everyone always comments about when they come into the school, and that welcoming atmosphere. And trust me, there's been times where I haven't known where to go, and I've asked a student and they've been more than helpful to put me in the right direction. So if in doubt, always ask, but I'm sure you won't have any concerns when you come up in September.
There's a couple of questions that have come up related to COVID-19, so if I come over to answer this, just from this senior leadership perspective. Very appropriate questions as well at the moment, because obviously there's a lot of uncertainty. We seem to have come through the pandemic, there's been a spike, but there's a worry that there might be a second spike. And how will St Albans manage that? Well, since the lockdown in March, the school has been open for key worker children and also vulnerable children as well, and the emphasis has been on making sure that it's a safe place, that there is learning taking place, and that we're looking after them. If there is a second spike, will we stay open? Yes, we will, to support them. Obviously, term ends for our school on the 17th of July to the end of August, and then we will reopen, but obviously we will be in touch in due course as well. Our website and other communications platforms are the best way to keep informed about the situation, but we are following as a school regular reviews of our risk assessments based on guidance from Public Health England and also the DFE as well. We have regular contact with our Board of Governors as well, just to ensure that everything we are doing is reviewed, but also ensuring that we have a duty of care to our students to make sure they're in a safe environment, that they're protected, and also the same goes for our staff as well, whether that's teachers or support staff. So hopefully I've answered your question as well. With regards to break time, there's been another question about that. We're observing 2 metres social distancing, even though the government have reviewed that, and we will be still adhering to that standard in school as long as necessary. What we're not going to do is change things where we're going to have dual instructions that confuse people, mislead people. We just want to make sure that we're following safe guidelines and ensuring that our students are safe as well moving around. At break times, at social times, we will be monitoring that situation and encouraging our students to make sure they keep equal distances between each other, and our staff will enforce that as well. And there'll be regular communications, whether it's through assemblies or form time induction as well, and that will come through the pastoral team, and Mrs. or Miss Bright will enforce that with Mrs. Arthur as well. So hopefully that's answered your question. I mean, as the situation develops, we're obviously looking at the up-to-date information, and where we can we'll adapt as accordingly, but there's still some unknowns about it, and we're not taking necessarily anything for granted. You know, please God that it'll be a lot less in September, but we don't know. We're monitoring that situation.
And next question from the audience. For those families who are less fortunate financially, Do we have second-hand uniform available at all?
Yes, we have a stock of second-hand uniform that our friends at St Albans help us to manage, and families donate sort of clean, good condition uniform. If you are having problems purchasing uniform and want to have a look through that and let us know what you need and what sizes, and we can try and provide that for you. For those families that currently are on free school meals, if we don't have the uniform in the correct size for you, then we can also look at helping support with some financial payments towards that.
We've got another question actually following on about COVID with regards to key worker children over the summer holiday, because obviously lots of NHS staff will be struggling to find childcare over the summer holidays. Children will have left primary school, so obviously they'll be in between schools. What can be done there? Well, we would advise you to contact the local authority where they have provision in place for that. And if you're not sure still, please contact ourselves and we can reiterate that if you've missed that tonight. We've had a question as well, it's linked actually, about will I be given a map to help find my way around school, and what happens if I get lost?
Oh.
So,
We haven't lost anybody yet.
no, always turn up. On the virtual school, there's already a map on the hall picture, but yes, you will be given a map, and we'll be doing lots of different activities, so you can get to know your way around. There's also the tour that's been put together for you as well, so you can start to get to grips with that. If you're lost, as I say, you can ask someone. There's always people around, so you can ask a teacher or support staff or students as well, because everyone's been in the same situation that you were in, that you don't know quite where you're going, but it's always best to ask if you're lost. And as we say, we've never lost someone for too long before now.
Time for one more?
Yeah, we've got a question about, well, we've got two quick ones
Two more,
tonight.
okay.
We've got one about induction. As induction has been very different this year, will the Year 7s have more than one extra day at the beginning of term to familiarise themselves with the school before all the other pupils go back in September?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the norm for us for the Year 7 students to come into school before all other students, to give that period of familiarisation. We are looking to increase that as you've asked, and so it would be sensible and a pragmatic response to ensure that your child feels comfortable at school, and it would be nice for them to have that opportunity to do that without 700 other students around. So certainly that's something that we are planning to do and we're looking at this very moment.
And we've got one final question about musical instruments. If someone's interested in picking up an instrument in Year 7, what did he do? How did he go about it?
Mrs Robinson is our head of music, and as soon as you arrive you'll be given information about all of the different music lessons that are on offer, and sent letters home for parent permission for you to apply to take part in those music lessons. So just basically wait for your music lessons in school and you'll get the information there.
Okay, right, so just before we finish for the evening, I'd just like to thank all of you for your participation. The questions that you've sent in have been really excellent, and it's really helped us to, I suppose, put ourselves at ease a little bit. We've all been a bit nervous tonight, but it's been really good actually having this ability to interact with you. We mentioned at the start that we'll have our contact details available at the end of this session. So once the session is finished, you will find our email addresses in the description below the video. So if you do want to get in contact with us before the end of this academic year for any reason, whether that's pastoral, safeguarding, special educational needs, whatever it might be, then please do just drop us an email and we'll do our best to help you and guide you before your child comes in September. And I'll now hand over to Mr. Corliss for our final prayer.
Just before we say our prayer, actually, I forgot to introduce myself at the start. So apart from being the man with the funny accent, my name's Mr. Corliss and I'm the deputy head teacher. And I have a number of responsibilities at the school. One of them is about Catholic life and leading our Catholic life at St Albans. Also, just another little reminder as well is that our school is revamping its website, so they're actually launching a new website at the end of this week, so please feel free to go online and follow our web address to access the new web platform. So, I'll now share a prayer with you. Lord Jesus, I ask you for your help for these students who will join St Alban's community in September. Allow them to experience your presence in the many blessings you put before them. Open their eyes to the new challenges and exciting opportunities that the new school will bring. Open their hearts and minds to new friends and teachers. Jesus, inspire them to do my best. We're really looking forward to seeing you and getting to know you, and we hope that the summer holidays are a good time to relax, refresh yourselves, have time with your family, and we look forward to seeing you in September. Stay safe, God bless, and good night.